Everything you see a robot do, from seeing things and processing the environment around it, to planning, deciding to move, and actually moving, involve around 10 different pieces all working together. Most robotics tutorials assume that you already know all of that. This one doesn't. In the next 20 minutes, I'll give you a working understanding of all the concepts you need in order to work in robotics. You're not going to be an expert, but you're going to be oriented and have a very clear picture of what it is you need to learn and where to start, which is the number one question I see beginners ask. Hi, this is Julia, and welcome back to engineering. This is episode 0 of a new series I'm doing together with Seeed Studios and NVIDIA hardware, where we're going to go through all the different parts it takes to get into physical AI, and specifically the Jetson ecosystem. Robotics is a very complex, multidisciplinary field, so to get a better grasp, here's the mental image that I want you to keep throughout this entire tutorial and series. At the bottom, we have the hardware or the computer brain. This is what everything will run on. This is our infrastructure that allows the computations to happen. On top of that, we control it with an operating system. We're then building a program with code in different programming languages, allowing us to implement things like AI modules, and we have robot-specific tools as well. So let's explore this stack from the bottom up. In terms of hardware, you're probably used to working with your laptop or your PC. If you've done electronics or beginner projects, you probably used microcontrollers or microprocessors. These are the things that power up your robots. The main compute that we're going to use in this series are CPUs and GPUs. Computer processing units and graphical processing units. Specifically, GPU is what allows us to run more advanced machine learning models like neural networks. GPUs used to be what powered gaming, but they're now used for parallel processing, multi-threading, and allowing us to do a lot of different tasks at the same time. Things like CUDA from NVIDIA allow us to control how the hardware is going to be processing the tasks that we send to it, distributing work along different nodes and different workers, making it a seamless process that allows you to go from doing one task at a time very slowly to doing a lot of different computations that work together. This will be very useful for things like working with matrices and everything that has to do with the data science behind robotics. Now you can have this hardware at home, or you can leverage things like cloud services that send your requests to different computers that are incredibly powerful somewhere else. However, when it comes to robotics, this communication introduces a lot of wait time or latency, so it's usually preferable to have that compute integrated into your robot. For this series specifically, we'll be using the reComputer from Seeed Studios, which brings the NVIDIA hardware together with all the different peripherals like cameras and different packages like the Jetpack that allow you to very optimally leverage the GPUs. Whichever hardware you have, on top of it, you're going to be running an operating system. You're probably used to working with an operating system like Windows or Mac, but when it comes to robotics, everything runs on Linux. Most famously, ROS barely works on anything else, and CUDA is also a first-class citizen. Specifically, you'd want to be running Ubuntu. Now this works a little bit differently than working with UI-first components like Windows. You'll be living in the terminal. This is a code-first interface that allows you to interact with everything that's happening on your computer, from navigating folders to editing files. Everything will be happening from here. There's a few commands that you should be familiar with and get used to, as we're going to be running a lot of things from the terminal. More details below. So you have your computer and your operating system and you want to start coding. You'll need to learn a programming language. There's a lot of different ones out there, each with their own benefits, from Java to C and C++, but because we're going to be running with a lot of AI and data science components, our language of choice is going to be Python. Now, luckily, this is a very accessible and easy to get started with language if you're just getting into programming, and it shares a lot of the core concepts with a lot of other languages. You'll need to be familiar with things like variables, lists, and dictionaries, functions, and even classes. And while more recently it's become more popular to use a lot of AI agents to help you with these tasks, it is very important that you can at least recognize and understand good code. So even if you don't plan to write a lot of the code yourself, you really need to understand the programming basics, so a good grasp of Python is essential. Not to say that you're going to be writing everything from scratch. There's a lot of libraries and utilities that help you when you're programming. From the IDE that you work in, which can help you with debugging and different utilities along the way, you can use something like VS Code, or on this channel we've used a lot of PyCharm. You can organize your work in files, or you can run in notebooks that allow you to have different code cells that are run on a kernel. This can speed up the process and make it a little bit easier. And we have things like Jupyter Notebooks or Jupyter Labs that allow you to very quickly experiment and get things going. Even when you have a more robust setup, there's things like UV, which replaces the old pip and venv, allowing you to create environments, freeze packages, and get all the utilities you need in order, which then allows you to use Python for AI, or data science, or machine learning, deep learning, artificial intelligence. There's a lot of discussion about where all these topics and terms go. I've been talking about it for more than 5 years, and I have a bachelor in data science, which is the study that allows you to bring insights out of data and create things like models, If these models learn to get better from data over time, this is called machine learning. And if we're creating more advanced models like neural networks that mimic the way that the brain works with neuron firings and different functions, this is deep learning. And this is mostly what we'll be using for advanced robotics. Whereas data science and basic machine learning models used to only focus on numbers, doing things like regressions and classifications, with deep learning we can process images and videos, which allows the robot to process things from its sensors. Especially with the new developments with foundational models and vision language action models, these are very powerful tools that allow your robot to collect information from all the sensors, process it, and decide what to do based on that. Not to say that you need to be a statistics and data structure and algorithm expert, but it is good to have some of these concepts down. For example, tensors. These are multidimensional data structures that allow us to work with things like images and do complex computations on them. I have some videos on this as well, but to give a very quick explanation, you have things like scalars or numbers, which are one-dimensionals. You have lists, you have matrices, and tensors take it one step further, which allow us to compute very complex data, which means that neural networks are just math on tensors. And that's enough for now. Again, it's good to have an understanding of this, but that's not to say that you're going to be doing matrix multiplication by hand. You have a lot of tools and libraries like PyTorch or TensorFlow that have already been optimized to work with these structures. You can import a lot of these libraries and use them directly. And this is where the open source community comes in as well. In most of the work we're doing, we're going to be using inference, which means running data against models that have already been trained and exist, rather than building them from scratch. We can import these models from places like scikit-learn or Hugging Face, along with data sets that we can use for our robotics projects. So again, having a high-level understanding and knowing what you need to use is the most important part. And to bring it back to the rest of our working model, we have things like Tensor RT that allows us to work with tensors in an optimized way for CUDA and for the GPU units that we'll be running our computations on. Now, by now, things have gotten a little bit complicated, and with that comes a lot of friction. For all these components to work together, they have to be the right version at the right time so that they're all compatible. We're talking the right Python version, all the different packages and libraries that you've imported, along with the right CUDA version and the right ROS version with the right operating system. This can get a little bit frustrating for people who are new to it, like I was literally a few weeks ago. But not to worry, we also have a few systems that are meant to help with this pain. Enter Docker. This is a way for us to freeze an entire environment in a state where everything works together and have it as a container. So in theory, you can have a container with Linux on it that runs all the other components smoothly together in harmony and just deploy it wherever is needed. Not to say that nothing will ever go wrong again, but this is a great tool to help you with this. And there's even more robotic-specific tooling like this, such as RobotStack or Pixie, that help you ease this pain even more. Great, so we have our setup running smoothly. What now? We start giving our robot senses. A lot of the focus will be on vision, computer vision, which allows the robot to process images and videos and understand what's happening in them. Here's where libraries like OpenCV that have been reliably doing this for more than 25 years come in to save the day. There's a lot of functionalities here based on mathematical processes that allow us to do things like segmentation, classification, detection, even without rigging AI into it, all the way to using deep learning models like YOLO to do really advanced and real-time running stuff. If you want to do anything with cameras or images, it's very important to get comfortable with OpenCV libraries, as well as the latest, most popular models, which at this moment is YOLO, and this combination should already get you quite far. And this covers the AI, ML, data science specific part. Then we want this to be compatible with our actual robot and hardware. This is where ROS comes in. Love it or hate it, it's currently the most popular and well-adopted operating system for robotics. It allows for different components to talk to each other and work together. A lot of the things you'll be seeing on the market come with ROS out of the box, which allow us to get up and running without having to write specific code for every single camera or rotor involved in your robot. This works with a system of nodes where all these components send messages on different topics to each other, allowing them to communicate and work harmoniously. These are the core concepts you need to get a good grasp on in order to work with ROS 2. We're not using ROS 1 anymore in 2026, and this will allow you to work with a lot of different robots where people have already written the ROS implementation for them, so you don't have to write everything from scratch or reinvent the wheel every single time. So, next time you look at a robot doing a lot of really fancy stuff, you will know there's probably some GPUs in there controlled by CUDA, running Linux on top with a lot of different programs, a lot of different ROS nodes controlling the movement, controlling the camera, which is running a pipeline with OpenCV and a deep learning model like YOLO. There's probably some Python architecture running PyTorch or Tensor RT, and the whole setup is probably a Docker container that can just run take the images, run through the pipelines, decide what to do, and move the robot. All of these layers will be smoothly working together, and you can work on whichever of them you want. And that's only the beginning. Now that we know what we need to know, we can actually get this series started. In every one of the following episodes, we'll be exploring one of these components, doing a deep dive, having a hands-on tutorial on it, and getting you familiar with everything you need to know. There's a GitHub repo with all the resources in the description provided by Seeed Studios to go along with this hardware and this series. In the next episode, I'll be unboxing my very own reComputer and going through the setup. You can get the very same one if you want to run on the same hardware for the rest of the series, and you can follow along at home. Make sure to subscribe so we can go along on this journey together, and let me know in the comments which of these parts you're already familiar with, which ones you're most excited to learn, and if I left anything out. I'm Yulia, welcome back to engineering, and I'll see you in the next episode.